Pledge of Eternities is releasing, I believe, next week, and there are a ton of cards in this set that are awesome for arena formats. And when I say arena formats, I mean specifically Historic Timeless. Let's get straight into this. First card here, I don't have too high of hopes, but it does read powerfully. So, 3-mana creature. Whenever you cast your second spell, you get 2 1/1s. That's a lot of physical cardboard, digital cardboard. You know exactly what I mean. Or you can buff your entire team. Well, in terms of Historic in particular, the 0-mana spells aren't too plentiful, like Ornithopter, like Mox Amber, Mox Jasper. You get Mishra's Bauble and Chromox and Timeless. I doubt it will do anything. Emergency Eject, it's a 3-mana, destroy any non-land permanent, and the downside is almost meaningless. Is this playable? Maybe. In like some kind of slower deck, or slower control deck that features what I can see the same play. Not too interesting though, let's continue on. Lightstall Inquisitor, I think this card has huge potential in some kind of white aggro deck. Now there's two ends of this. I guess the initial reaction to this is, hey, this card sucks, right? It only costs 1 more, they get to choose. I guess the reaction before that is, oh my goodness, 1-mana creature, they exile a card, this is broken. Then there's that, and then there's kind of, the other end of the bell curve is like, this is disruptive enough for cheap enough body, it has a good enough body rate, 2 in Vigilance, that's pretty good on its own. It's tuned enough to where I think it could see play in any kind of white aggro, although, Guide of Souls is, even nerfed, is still far and away a better card. Pinnacle Starcage, this is just a worse temporary lockdown with the exception of in Enchantress decks where you don't want to exile your own enchantments. That's all there is to say here. Now I've got a whole bunch of cards here, most of them are marginal upgrades, for Magda Changelings. Now for some reason, Wizards has decided that these past few sets that they're going to buff the heck out of this archetype. And I am more than grateful because this archetype is awesome. First of all, let's talk about the station mechanic. What it actually is you can tap creatures to crew in quotation marks. Basically, you add counters equal to its power. And when it has the set amount of counters labeled in a little circle, like here it would be 12 plus, once you get 12, it has that effect. We don't really care about the effect. Why? Because we just want a free tap outlet. So essentially what these station lands are is a tap land that lets us tap our changelings whenever we want. Well, that's sorcery speed, but I can play a tap land, I can play Magda on turn 2 tapper, and immediately start getting treasures out of it. I can play 1-mana changeling, tap it, play another 1-mana changeling using the treasure, tap it. Very, very, very good effect for very, very, very marginal opportunity cost. Really, it's just a tap land, which is kind of huge, but the important turn is turn 2, so I don't mind playing a tap land turn 1. I think these are going to be great for the archetype. We've also got the Seriama, or the Seriama. Basically a 3-mana vehicle that searches for Magda, can search for Johnny, can search for Yuriko as well, and mostly be searching for Magda. And it's a tap outlet for Magda. I have a little bit less high of hopes that this will see play. I'm thinking that maybe a Pioneer version could see play, because the Pioneer version would play the station lands as well as the Seriama possibly. And it's just like, all the payoffs are there, right? There's a lot of tribal payoffs in Pioneer, but the changelings are just terrible. It's kind of unfortunate the situation this archetype is in Pioneer, but we're not talking about Pioneer, so let's carry on to the next one. Possibility Technician. Now, I don't think this card has a high chance of seeing play, but I do think it's a good card that could see play. So, essentially, for 2 mana, you exile a card. As long as you have a Kavu, you can play it. You're going to have a Kavu, you have a bunch of changelings, that's not an issue. 3 mana and this also, it doesn't just, what am I saying? Whenever a Kavu, so it or another Kavu enters, you exile the top card. As long as you control a Kavu, you may play it. We play a ton of very cheap Kavus. I think this card is going to be quite nice when it gets going. I'll have to see how it plays with the curve though. Eldrazi Temple. This card is, I don't know what to say. It's going to get banned the next ban announcement. It was a huge mistake to not pre-ban it. And that makes me think that the arena team does not know what they're doing. So besides the obvious of going straight into Eldrazi and making that the most broken deck of all time, because it is basically the same card pool as Modern for that deck, it'll reign supreme in Historic. I'm going to stop ranting because that deck makes me mad, the gameplay's awful, so on and so forth. Eldrazi Temple says Eldrazi, it doesn't say non-changeling Eldrazi. Do we have colorless Eldrazi because colorless is a requirement? Well, we do. We have Universal Automaton. Well, that's just 1 mana, I hear you say. Well, we've also got an arena exclusive Changeling and Changeling Outcast. Or, pardon, not Changeling Outcast. The there's a random. I should have put it on the slide. There's a 3 mana Changeling. When it enters, it seeks a creature with the type most common in your deck. It's a 2/2. In other words, you've got this 3-drop that draws a good card on ETB that we can power out early with Eldrazi Temple. We can also play Kozilek's Command because Eldrazi Temple makes Kozilek's Command broken. We have enough color sources because Cavern of Souls and the like all produce colorless. If we get to play that card, then the deck just, we're just inserting more individually powerful cards into the deck that all synergize with each other, which makes this deck quite the force to be reckoned with. Swarmyard's another interesting one. Swarmyard plus Changeling equals Infinite Blocker. That seems very annoying. I'm glad to be on this side of it. A Reflecting Pool, I'm not even sure it'll see play. I don't think it will see play. I'll try it as one of. It has seen play in these kinds of decks before, and like Modern and such, and yeah, that's that. Seamrip, I've played Portable Hole as generic removal. Seamrip is the same thing, except for maybe slightly harder to interact with. You'll want this for your enchantment decks. That's about it, though. Starfield Shepherd, I don't know what I want to do with this. It reads well good. I really like they can get a planes. Cards that tutor that can also get your land drops are very nice. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this saw play somewhere, but I just can't think of the archetype right now. Consult the star charts. This is a control card. It's an okay control card. Yeah, might as well play it. We've got some more artifact cards here. So Hardlight Containment. It enchants an artifact. It exiles any non-land permanent. Until it leaves the battlefield, enchanted permanent is Ward 1. So if you put this on an indestructible artifact land, you're pretty much good. Well, I guess the actual enchantment itself can be interacted with, but what you're going to do, people play Leyline Binding, it doesn't stop that from being a good card. I think this could be somewhat good in these kind of artifact decks. It'll be interesting to see if you want to play it over Portable Hole, because Portable Hole itself is an artifact, so it enables all the synergies. Interesting to see where that ends up. Emissary Escort, this card, if you're playing all those 7-mana Infinity cards, if you're playing the Epic Engineers, I think this is actually quite good. Now, this is going to be a lot better in Legacy, where it being blue matters a ton, but it's still probably pretty good. Tezzeret, it searches for artifacts mana value 1 or less. We don't have too many good of the. We have got Portable Hole, which is very good. That's nice to get. We don't really have like Blocking Ballista or any of the mocks in from like Legacy and Vintage, so not too high on that ability. The 0 is, again, whatever. It'll most likely get you mana if you have like an artifact land. The -7 is actually pretty darn good. I think if your plan is to play Tezzeret, plays 4 0-mana artifacts, and then -7, and just get an endless army of these creatures, I think that's a game-winning play. So the powers here, we just don't really have the enablers in the older formats. It will, again, be interesting to see where that ends up. Quantum Brittler, I initially completely ignored this card. Then I realized 2 key aspects. It's a spell with mana value 5 or more. It is also a card that can be cheated into play with a flicker effect. So with those 2 things in mind, this card is going to be drawing a whole ton of cards. Seems like a ginormous pain. Yeah, not looking forward to playing against this card. We've got some generically good black cards. I think all of these are decent enough to see play in a mono black mid-range deck. I guess the one I'd have to explain myself on, well, two. First, I'll go with the Timeline Color. This may seem kind of like a bad Bloodghast, but I have slowly come to realize that it may be a better Bloodghast in a way, because this is an infinite blocker. Like, I don't think it's possible to really appreciate how good an infinite blocker is. And it's just a 2/2 haste for 2 mana. Like, that's, well, it adds to your devotion if you're playing Nykthos. But that's just an okay card to play on turn 2. Yeah, no, I'm thinking that card's actually going to be pretty darn good. Darkness, Fog has seen play sometimes, kinda. Maybe I'm lying. Maybe I'm not. Uh, if it did see play in mono black mid range, I would be kinda shocked, but it's a unique effect that's powerful, so maybe question mark. The only reason this card's here is because of Death Shadow. I think returning Death Shadow as a 13/13 is hilarious. In terms of actually building a deck around this, eh, it'd probably have to be some kind of all-in Cauldron style deck. I don't see you just trying to play this fairly and untap, because this card sucks if you're not going all in on its ability. This card I don't see a lot of people talking about, but I think it's the best kind of, you have infinite ETBs of an artifact or creature, how do you kill the opponent? I think it's the best version of that. It's only 1 mana. The one that immediately comes to mind is Saheeli Rai combo. If you minus an artifact copy of Saheeli Rai, there's multiple ways to do this, like liquid metal coating. You can also turn into a creature with the Excalibur or whatever it's called, like the Luxior. So for specifically Saheeli combo, Weftstalker Ardent is pretty okay. Niche, but I'm still putting it on the list. We have some green cards here that are pretty darn cool for a Maverick style toolbox deck. Green Sun Zenith is obviously the start of the show. Now, I don't think this will even be all too good, right? We're missing Dread Arbor, so Green Sun Zenith will be actually a pretty mediocre card. But it still does enable this type of archetype if you do want to play it, if you're intent on playing this toolbox style deck. Frenzied Baloth, I don't see this thing play anywhere except for when the ring is prevalent, so if the meta ends up being such that the ring is everywhere, which it may be, with Ancient Tomb coming to decline, spoiler alert, this is the only place I would see play. Icefell Explorer, I think this card is really great. I think it's especially great in Timeless, where you can just be looping the Strip Mine. 2 Strip Mines a turn. Seems insane. I'm kind of surprised they put both of these effects on a creature this cheap in quotation marks. Like, definitely better than Raymond Excavator. Or I guess you can think about it this way, right? You don't want to play Excavator on turn 2 because you don't get to play a land immediately. They can just kill you, got no value. You want to play it on turn 4, or you can then play a land from your graveyard immediately after you play it. You're totally fine playing the Explorer turn 4 because you got that additional land drop. So you play turn 4, you play a land, you play the Excavator turn 4, you play a land. It's like almost like the same mana cost. And this is definitely the effect you want with Strip Mine coming to the format. Again, spoiler alert, that card's going to have some serious ramifications. Gene Pollinator, the reason I put it here is because it's a 1 mana artifact mana dork. That hasn't really existed. This could be something you want. I'm kind of excited for this in very specific Pioneer archetypes, but we're not talking about Pioneer, so I'll carry on. Cosmoglyph. Very interesting card. Very glad they printed this. This is a very fun build around, and it's not like a combo build around. It's a mid-range build around. The one card that I haven't seen really many people talk about is Demonic Bargain. So you play Cosmoglyph turn 2, Demonic Bargain turn 3, exile the top 13 cards, you're attacking with a 13/14. Neither of these cards are that horrible on their, well, I guess Cosmoglyph without any cards in exile is pretty terrible, but Demonic Bargain by itself it's whatever. It's like an okay card, which is why I think this could have a shot at doing something, maybe. It'll be interesting. Here I have my most niche, even more niche than Saheeli combo archetype that got a surprising amount of cards. Ravenous Intruder is basically a Tog. Back all the way when Jumpstart 2021 came out. It's been 4 years. That's insanity. The artifact lands, or not the artifact lands, pardon me. Ignore everything I've said up till this point. The idea with this is you Ravenous Intruder, you sack your whole board full of all these cheap artifacts, you give it like double strike and trample with Humor Battle Rage, or you do something fancy with that, and basically like an all-out aggro artifact sacrifice type deck. Well, that got a lot of decent cards. Let's go for the worst one first, Power Depot. Whatever. Modular 1, you can sack it to the Intruder to put the counter on the Intruder. Something to think about. Nutrient Block. The reason I put it here, I should have put the card on the list, or on the slide, pardon. There's the Scissors card, the 2 mana enchant an artifact that becomes a 5/5. And this is indestructible, so that's very nice. And also it draws a card on sack with Revenant Intruder, so maybe you can do like 4 of the enchant artifact thingy, 4 intruder, 4 nutrient block, and that is kind of synergy with both of them. And you can also play the indestructible artifact lands. Biotech Specialist. This is the card I think is the best for this type of archetype. Manners, you create a lander token, so artifact for the attack to sack. Whenever you sacrifice an artifact, this creature deals 2 damage to target opponent. So if you have Revenant Intruder out, you sack your entire board. You do 2 damage per artifact you sack, and you're attacking with a humongous Atog. If you have 5 artifacts, you sack them all to the Atog, you attack, that's lethal, assuming no blocks. But this seems like a crazy awesome synergy. Some very similar things have happened in Pauper, some very similar things have been banned in Pauper. At least seems very, very fun. Pinnacle Emissary, this is a card that was good for it could be good for generic artifact decks. You would need a lot of zeros though, I don't think it's very good without a lot of zeros. And if you're playing a lot of zeros in this kind of a talk show, which you're kind of incentivized to, right? You want a whole bunch of zero artifacts. Well, you just turn 1, this, whole bunch of zeros, bam bam bam, get like 3 drones. Turn 2, you Arena of Glory, paste in the attack, sacrifice your whole board, deal like 14, 16, 18. Seems very fun. This slide are focused to the 3 cards that are pre-banned in Historic, which means they'll probably be pretty good in Timeless. Strip Mine, oh boy, this may be the most impactful card from the set. I am very much looking forward to looping this. This will see play in a ton of decks. Be very prepared to deal with this. Bring in your main deck, Disruptor Flutes, Pithing Needles, maybe like Tomik. Ancient Tomb. Oh my goodness, yeah, the card's finally here. All your Stompy dreams can come true. The Wondering will get a lot better. Artifact decks will get a lot better. The mono red stuff will get a lot better. They also get a lot better with Magus of the Moon. Maybe not a lot better. We already have Blood Moon. We already have Harbinger of the Seas. But it sees play in formats where those already exist, so I imagine we'll see play in this format as well. Gemstone Caverns. This is a card that I'm not necessarily surprised they didn't pre-ban in Historic. I don't think it needs to be pre-banned in Historic. I thought there was a significant possibility that it would be pre-banned in Historic. I'm very glad to have this card. Kind of like the Alchemy card design where going second is incentivized to make up for the disrupt or the imbalance and going first. This is a card that heavily balances out. It doesn't bring you ahead in an impressive way. It just balances out the mana and the cards and whatnot. So I think this is actually great in terms of gameplay for both formats, so excited for that. This also helps out the Stompy decks tremendously, gives more consistency, so like Gemstone plus Chrome Mox plus Ancient Tomb, that's enough to actually build a deck around fast mana. Inkmoth Nexus will pretty much only see play in the context of Hammer Time. Europe will pretty much only see play in the context of Lumra. This is a little bit interesting. Burgeoning is a great card. It is worse than Exploration, but it is of the same tier of power level, I believe. Terrain Generator is a land that can also let you kind of ramp out lands, assuming you have lands at hand. So we have 2 cards that enable consistently the continuous putting of lands from your hand onto the battlefield. This can make cards such as Mulch, Winding Way, Treasure Hunt, where you put a ton of lands into your hand, possibly very playable. I didn't put it on the slide, but this also works great with land tax. Land tax plus terrain generator, that can be, well, I guess if you're putting lands into play, then your land tax won't trigger, but burgeoning for sure. I think, I'm not necessarily convinced this will be great, but this is essentially an entirely new area of gameplay that's opened up in both formats from this. And with that, I was too lazy to make an end sign. I'm just kidding. I completely forgot to make an end slide. So I will say fin, I will say the end, I will say goodbye.